All right, so where I want to start is the Trump administration just fired Shira Perlmutter. So she's the director of the Copyright Office. And the timing of this really matters because actually, when I did a discussion with you on your channel, I had shared that we had written this letter that went to Congress and it actually went to this director, Shira. And we were saying about these issues with music distributors and what's going on with music royalties. So for us, we're pretty horrified that she's been terminated. But the reason why she was terminated is what we're kind of speculating on. She's been this director since 2020. She allegedly had received an email from the White House after publishing this report. The Copyright Office put out this report on copyright and artificial intelligence. And this was actually part 3. So part 3 specifically was talking about, is it okay for artificial intelligence companies to train on, let's say, other people's music and just creative stuff in general, movies, pictures, whatever. So to train on pre-existing copyrighted content without permission, without getting a license. So in this report, it basically concluded that, well, more than likely it's not fair use. And so the reason why this really matters is because we have, as you know, all of these pending lawsuits against AI companies like Suno, like Udio, and they're claiming, yes, we trained our AI on copyrighted stuff, but we will not be held liable. We shouldn't be held liable for copyright infringement because it's fair use. The fact that the Copyright Office itself just put out a report saying, you know what, we don't think this likely qualifies for fair use is really not good for tech companies. So circling back, the fact that after about 24 hours of this report being out, she got fired. We can only kind of speculate. So I guess let's start there as far as kind of like the removal and, we don't get into politics too much on Top Music Attorney, but I
You
know
don't.
you're more comfortable in this area. So initial thoughts.
I mean, I guess like I'm not really surprised, honestly. I mean, I didn't know the full background when you originally told me this headline because I know there have been like some firings of people who I think, if you're more ignorant to politics, might sort of just be categorized as like, oh, they're just like bureaucratic paper pushers and so on and so forth. And they don't really matter. What does it really mean for somebody who was in that position at the Copyright Office to get fired? Yeah, I don't know what any of those people do. How does it affect me? So on and so forth. But if this administration has proven anything over the past several months that it's, been officially in, it's very pay to play, like more than I feel like is standard and normal in our politics these days. And I feel like we've seen that, especially to be the case in the world of tech, whether it is crypto or whether it is AI. We're just seeing like just countless lobbying dollars thrown at congressional people, at people in the federal government, just every year now at this point, whether it be like Facebook or Meta at this point, or, whether it be sort of the AI industry, which, yeah, there's so much money in AI right now. So, of course, like any government official or employee with any sort of power influence that might actually stop AI in its tracks or cause it to, I don't know, run a little more ethically or maybe in a fashion where it's not maximizing as much profits as it possibly could, that person's going to be let go. Trump and people in his orbit have done like these stupid little meme coins and stuff like that. Like, these people are fully into the idea of using tech in whatever way that they can to grift people and pull money out of their pocket. AI just sort of like runs in that same way in the world of art and intellectual property, in my opinion. We've talked about this numerous times on YouTube, and I think honestly it's just gonna kind of get worse. I personally disagree with the argument that what these AI companies are doing with music and with art and other creative works is fair use. For a lot of music fans and creators and people who might be commenting on things like me or remixing things like a DJ or some other like, music or sound artist, like what you are remixing or referencing or talking about is usually incorporated in the work that you're creating or commenting with pretty boldly or clearly or obviously. So like the paper trail is there. Like my work that I'm creating here is based on this other thing. Whereas like AI is very much about some of these companies we were just referencing that sort of like generate music out of thin air off of being trained off of other music. They're all about covering up that paper trail and just presenting this as like, oh, well, this is a totally new, fresh, original work that can't be tied to any one person or artist or whatever, because, sort of the recipe that went into it is like a secret, even a secret to us to an extent, because it's like totally random or based on, not saying, oh, go rip off a Weekend song. No, it's just like ripping off a bunch of like mood titles or sort of like emotional search key terms and that sort of thing. Even though some of these companies have like literally literally generated songs that fans hear, like, idly on social media, and they're like, oh, but that's literally Future's voice, or that's, Young Lean's voice, or that's some other the artist who, like, tons of people recognize and listen to their work on a regular basis. So, these companies are all about sort of using these platforms to not credit artists for their work that is obviously inspiring the stuff that their platforms and their interfaces are generating. In that respect, most definitely, I don't see it as fair use. It's all about giving as little credit or connection to the original artist as possible. It's all about hiding those connections and influences.
Yeah, and then sometimes it's also just being even more crass than that. They just don't care. It's not even that they're intentionally trying to hide. They just don't care. They're tech companies. So I think one thing you said, as far as just the current administration, we see them using AI all the time, right? We've seen lots of AI pictures by the White House. So there's that.
Yeah.
If you're needing legal help with your career, your business, we got you covered. Feel free to reach out to my law firm. I'm honored to say we have over 100 5-star Google reviews. We offer free case evaluations, which just means that you can give us a call, you can email us, no commitment. We'll just see how we can help. We look forward to hearing from you. But something that comes to mind with just the independence of the Copyright Office, I can tell you I do litigation all the time. And when we are litigating copyright cases, we will point to the Copyright Office as a standalone kind of powerhouse. And we go, Your Honor, as it relates to this case, you should be persuaded by what the Copyright Office itself it says on this issue. So the fact that this report was published, and P.S., this report was like a draft. Now, it shouldn't change too much from where it's currently at, but it was the initial draft. And so what I'm thinking is, I'm like, well, now that she's out, someone else is going to step in. And I'm really curious to see if the final conclusion of this report dramatically changes, but it undermines the independence of the Copyright Office. If now you have essentially retaliation from the government, if you are kind of anti-tech, because this administration, we've said this, on this channel since the beginning of the year, of just being like, look, we think this administration is very pro AI, it's very pro tech, and so we were just kind of worried about, for creatives, what does this mean? Because now it's going to be this is a chilling message for anyone in government who is going to take a stand for creators and do anything and say anything that is anti-tech.
I don't even want to necessarily like even buy into it with that sort of framing. I don't know that the administration even really knows or understands much about tech or enough about tech to really be pro tech. And I don't think anybody at the Copyright Office is genuinely anti-tech. They're there to protect intellectual property owners. And I feel like there's a way for tech to exist and operate in a fashion that respects the intellectual property rights of musicians, of artists, of creators of all stripes. There's a fashion that this can all work where that happens, and there's a fashion that this can all work where AI is essentially allowed to run rampant, just completely out of control, essentially just create so much garbage and so much noise on the internet with other people's creative works that it essentially drowns out any genuine human touch or creativity or personal creativity, and it'll sort of just be destructive for everybody. It's already, even at the, and I know it seems like AI is everywhere now, but I mean, I feel like maybe some people are failing to realize we're still at like somewhat of the potential initial stages of all of this. Like, as bad as it is to some degree, it can get so much worse. And already at the point that we are at now, because again, I think this is like a bit of an early stage to where this could potentially go in the future. We're already seeing this stuff like completely ruin the quality of the internet in terms of like the validity of the stories and the information and the images that are coming across our feeds every day, regardless of where, you're looking or consuming your internet content. Also, just like looking at search engines on a regular basis and just sort of the normal places and hubs that we used to go to on a regular basis to be able to look up the information that we want, to find the things that we need to understand the world that we exist in. Most of the time, you're looking up stuff that you need to know on a regular basis through a platform like Google. You're just getting like all of these terrible, misinformed AI responses, or just like total trash that isn't even written by a person and is like actually confusing and more harmful than it is helpful. That's the kind of direction that we're currently heading in. And again, it can get so much worse. And I feel like there's a way that AI can exist and can be ethically. I'm pro a society, I'm pro a world where AI exists in a way to where it actually helps the general population and not just puts money in the pocket of those who own it. And that's where I really think things are at kind of like currently. The only people who AI is really truly serving are those who own these companies and own the interfaces and own these platforms. That's who AI is currently serving the most. It's not all of us. You know, it's certainly keeping us distracted and certainly making things confusing. It's making some people kind of entertained. The people who it's helping the most are the people at the top.
Well, sure. Look, and devil's advocate, what's wrong with these companies doing some tech development, making some money? There's nothing wrong with that, right? But on the flip side, going back to the report, Perlmutter, right again, so the ex-director of the Copyright Office, in her report, she had said, look, AI is here. We're developing, we're advancing, it's happening. And that's not the problem. The problem is that there's an existing business model in the music business market to go and license. If you want to use someone else's music to train your AI, you got to go and license. That structure works. And at this point, government intervention, not needed. And so that's part of where maybe the problem came from. But it's funny, you mentioned as far as just Google searches, AI. For the first time, we had a client who said they found my law firm using ChatGPT. I have this theory that in the next however many years, maybe 5, Google will go away and ChatGPT will become the new Google because of how now people are seeking out information and they're seeing how helpful AI can be. So it's been interesting in that kind of perspective. So as far as, all right, where do we go from here on? Is there really a risk? Because it kind of sounds like your theory or your feeling on this is that it's not so much that this was even an intentional thing. Let's remove her because she has the wrong opinion. It doesn't, kind of jive with what we're trying to do as an administration. Maybe there was something else that happened.
The administration itself, I don't think they really know or understand this stuff enough to care. I think they're being told by their donors in the AI space, hey, this person here is like working against our best interests. We need her to either stop or go. I think that's what's happening here. You look at any given Trump interview. I mean, the man is literally rambling about how many dolls a little girl should be allowed to own. That's where his mind is at, as far as like, technology and the way our society is working now. He's a Fox News grandpa. I don't think he knows or understands enough about any of this stuff to like, to know either way, like, the AI rules, AI this, AI that. I don't know. He doesn't freaking know. But there are people who are in his orbit who are receiving money from these companies, or they know that, these companies are important to have sort of on their side, potentially benefiting, the administration in terms of like what maybe these companies could do for them from a PR standpoint, or just, in terms of like just keeping money in their pocket, because I mean, money is everything in our politics in this country, unfortunately.
Well, look, the last thing I'll say on this is I'll kind of circle back to, this letter that we had written. We're so disappointed, and we hope maybe there'll be a loud enough kind of outcry about this. Maybe she'll get her job back because, for example, the union, it's this 170,000 plus union, IATSE. So this represents, the behind the scenes workers for film, television, costume designers. So anyway, they put out a whole thing and they go, this is unlawful. We think that basically, having the executive branch come in and make these decisions, that's not cool. She was, elected through the legislative process. So in any case, we'll see kind of how this plays out. We certainly hope she gets her job back, if that's even an option at this point.
I guess we'll see.